Welcome to MVE Collectibles, the place for all your TCG needs. Whether it be Pokemon, One Piece, Yu-Gi-Oh, we have what you need at MVE Collectibles. Check us out.
Yeah, fellas, Rahul here. Just won the OTS MV this weekend. My first time winning a big event, so I'm real proud. Um, and yeah, I have a little deck profile. I play branded Dracotail. Real fun. Love the deck. Has its weaknesses, but I really enjoying it, right? So we get into it. Um, First thing for the Dracotails, 3 Lucius. That's very standard. 3/5 mana, also very standard. Best card in the deck. Love. Anytime you open 5 mana, first or second, plays significantly stronger. Um, Very often, if I was playing 5 mana going second, I'd try to resolve it at the end of the main phase because you don't want, when you set your Dracotail stuff, to get hit by any of the interruptions. So, for instance, if they set a Rahu and then they have an MST in hand or something, you don't want that to happen. But after they set all the MSTs, then you could go ahead and 5 mana, set a flame or something, and then you have ways to play in their turn more than before, right? One Mululu, because Konami said so. One Trixel, I'll side this card out a lot. It's good for brand diffusion. Cool for some Secretarian plays and nice in a grind game, but definitely a card you could side out. That is all real standard. Pans and the Urgulas is where you have like flexibility in Dracotail. I was playing 3 Urgula and 1 Pan. I think Urgula are real good in the format. I also think it's really good based on our locals, and I think a lot of people like to play. A Radiant Typhoon is really popular, and Dracotail is very popular, and Urgula is really good into both of them. Also helps the grind game a lot. So I actually won game one of the finals because of opening 5 mana Urgula. And yeah, so then one Cat 2 because Konami said so. 3 Rahu, nothing much to say about that. For the traps, this was I just played Sting and Flame, and that was because I saw a video Jesse Cotton did talking about how the point of having Horn, the one that's bounced to face up attack position monster, like the most value you get from it is it lets you stay alive a turn, right? It doesn't the bounce doesn't really do much for you. But the fact that your opponent's gonna put all their cards in defense mode, that is what really helps, right? So if you open a Rahu and a Lucius and a 5 mana, right? Lucius and 5 mana, you can do the full Dracotail combo, right? So you hold on to this Rahu and you set Flame, you set Sting in your combo, and then you set a next card, which is a Rahu. And your opponent is gonna assume that you set Horn, and then they're gonna put everybody in defense. They might even try to pop the Rahu, and that's wasting resources. And if they don't OTK you, you have a lot of follow up, especially if you get access to the branded engine. So yeah, I like this because it helps the consistency. You really don't want to open the traps. And yeah, so that was it for the Dracotail side. For the branded, we did 2 Fallen of the White and 1 Albaz. I think you have to play with these ratios. I think this card is the only reason that this deck is viable. I think it pairs so well with like it helps the deck play into Fua because of Ecclesia and because of Rinbrom as well being sent. Gives you a quick effect where you could bring him back and then fuse on their turn. And even though very often he may not resolve, the threat of him is very strong. Your opponent plays around it, and then for him not to resolve, they also have to play around it. So that's like a lot of stuff. And yeah, you have to discard a card, so you have to be kind of careful. But for instance, you could draw Fua going first. You could draw a bunch of dead cards. You have your Cartesias that recycle and your Equations that recycle. So it's not like the end of the world to just discard one card. I think he's a must. Then 2 Cartesias because you have 2 less Mululus and it's really useful to fuse. The playing one Equasia. This could be a little risky if they banish it, because that kills like your whole fallen white players. But I didn't run into any trouble this weekend with it. And then one Albion, he sends the fallen of white and is what do you call it? The Potter, the upstart goblin or something like that. Yeah. And then two branded fusion. This card is good. I think is a little overrated. I'd often side one out. Maybe two. I like having one because, well, for the extra deck, I'm only playing one Albion, which we'll get into in a second. But that means like my next send after the Albion is usually a Dragon that devours the Dogma or a Albalinatus, right? So when you send the Albalinatus, you get Search Branded Fusion, and that is pretty powerful. But like Branded Fusion itself, I don't think is that good. Especially like it's not as overpowered as people think. It definitely is a good card. And then two fallen. I think three a little bit bricky. I think you have to play more than one because the whole point is you could fallen, send Albion, and then search another fallen. Or you could fallen of the white, send Dragon that devours the Dogma, and in the end phase, you will add the fallen and the virtuous to your hand, which you could then reactivate and then send Albion and then set one, right? So there's a lot of card advantage generated there, but you don't want to just see too many of these. If you draw two of them, it's really bad. So I think two is the right amount for this. Really happy with that. Then for the non-engine, 3 Ash, that is real standard. The whole point of playing Ash is just to dodge Fuwas and well, maybe Perulias, I guess. It's also really good into Rahul, to Crocia if you can hit it. And yeah, not bad at all. Fua, that is just to go second. You have to prepare for going second. Shout out Sean for giving me that Fua. I played 2 Droll in the main. That was because at all locals, most decks there lose the Droll. There's a lot of Radiant Typhoon. There's a lot of Vanquish Soul K9. There's a lot of we have a like a dancer running around. We have a couple yummy Fiendsmith players. So I think the Droll was real good in the main. Won my few games this weekend. And then the last card, which I don't have and I was borrowing, was 3 Forbidden Droplets. Those were really, really good. I think each time I saw it, they did a lot of work, won me a few games, negating a Caesar from a certain Fiendsmith yummy player. And yeah, so that was the main deck. Then for the extra deck, we play 2 Italians. I never missed the third. Usually if you reach a point where you're making the third, your opponent is also kind of struggling out the resources, and at that point in the game, it's not about looping resources, it's more about pushing for game, right? So I played 1 Gulamel and then 1 Shaolas. I really like this card. He applies a lot of pressure going, like when you use him on like a turn 3 or something, because even if they out him, you could bring him back using his own effect, and then it's really useful that way. There's also one time when I completely ran out of spell and traps, Dracotail spell and traps in my deck, and I needed to recycle using Shaolas. So I think that kind of utility is really useful. You won't make him every game, but he's definitely a super useful tool to have. Secretarian, good in the mirror. I played a branded guy. Shout out Crookshank, and yeah, the Secretarian good for that, and it's also good to revive, extend your combos. Very useful with the whole Cartesia lines and stuff. Then I played 1 Mysterion. I think this is really good into Vanquish Soul K9 and a few other cards, but a few other decks, sorry. But I think I only made it once, and it was really good when I did. It's a very kind of niche scenario card, but when it comes up, it's very, very powerful. And a lot of people don't expect it, because not many people play it in Dracotail anymore. Then for the branded package, we have the Equation, the Dark Dragon, Albion, and then the Dragon that devours the Dogma. Those are all very standard. You send these off of Fallen on the White or Fallen on the Virtuous. This guy, sometimes you make him. I think I could have been playing 2. The extra deck is pretty tight, but there was a time when I kind of missed it. Um, but it was fine. And then, but the thing about him is that there's also like summoning him is quite useful because he's a 2500 beta. That when he gets into grade, he'll get you the search, and he can banish from your graveyard and summon something else. So when you're pushing the game, it's very, very useful to have a card like this. Bryn Brom, this card was real good for me. Um, some people may not realize this, but you can easily make him against Radiant Typhoon by fusing their monsters and your Alvas. And then it's pretty useful that way. I think you could also make him against like some Yummy boards, and then um, very useful into Yummy. And then, well, obviously the graveyard effect where he revives an Alvas, which could then get you into a Mirror Jade. Super, super useful. Um, Sacrifice Dragon, I just played him for Brand Diffusion, send Frixel. It's kind of straightforward. You don't really make him anywhere else. It's good into to protect you against evenly matched, but I don't think he ever came up in a way that it was like super, super like game changing. But he's a very standard card to have. I think you should include him in the deck. Um, Albinatas, very useful, even though I didn't play against any Dracotail guys. I used it once against the branded, but um, it was more than just having that contact fusion. It lets you send Pan or Urgula or Malulu from branded fusion. It also lets you search branded fusion, which applies a lot of pressure because, again, very often your opponent doesn't kill you. They just like wipe your board. So having follow up is useful. And he sending branded fusion being very, very powerful follow up. You play Chaos Star Source. I don't think this card was like OP or anything. I don't think I played it that much, but it was useful. It comes up a few times, especially because you have Cartesia on your field, and you have the Fallen of Albaz coming out and so on, right? And the last card I played was SP. This I think could have been the second Albion. I played it mostly for if any kind of die fight shenanigans happen or something like that. If there was like a Secretarian that I needed out in. I thought it had some very niche scenarios where it could come up, but it didn't this weekend. That was my extra deck. Worked really well for me. And for the side deck, we played 3 Perulia, very good into Radiant Typhoon, very good into Vanquish Soul K9. I think it's also like it's good to have against certain decks because any deck that almost needs a normal summon, like for instance, Luna Light, and they sometimes do special summon more from the hand, it just applies a lot more pressure, right? And so trading 1 for 1 with the normal summon is enough to just net you back the card advantage, and then applying a little pressure is good, right? Especially if you could like pair this with a Fua, then it becomes really useful. Game 2 of the finals, I managed to use Fua and Perulia against Radiant Typhoon, and he let me draw up to, by the time it was my draw phase, I had 8 cards in hand. So that would have been minus the Perulia and Fua. And I still lost. I got cooked. I had Lucius, Malulu, Cartesia in hand. Normal summon 1. It got hit with Forbidden Crown. And then I had no way to extend. So it is what it is. But I think the card was still really useful because getting to draw that much, I think the draws were just a bit unlucky. Then I played 3 Emporium. I think it's good for Vanquish Soul K9 because it's not a monster in your hand or grave. So that's really useful. But it didn't really come up that much this weekend. I didn't play against any Vanquish Soul K9, so I don't think it was like the card, the issue. I think it's just the matchups that it didn't really matter too much in. Nibiru, I think this card is really good this format because now even Dracotail summons a whole bunch. So now every single deck summons a whole bunch, and Nib is really good into them. I think Radiant Typhoon is kind of weak into, but the majority of my side deck is really good against Radiant Typhoon. So, yeah. Then I played 1 Harpies. That was good for Di-Fi, really. But I don't think it really came off anywhere that was like super useful. I then played a Magnamut. I like this card because when it can come up, it could sit you falling on the White Dragon, who is busted. But it didn't come up that much, so it is what it is. I think I'll cut this going forward from here. Then for going first, I put the horn in because one, if your opponent catches on to what you're doing, you can catch them off guard with the horn. And two, going first, having 3 traps is really good. It really sets up your game. And post side, the people going second, right? Your opponent who's going second would have a lot more stuff to clear your board, right? So you want to have enough interruptions, like all over, right? It has to be layered. So it can't just be all back row, all monsters, or all hand traps, right? You need to have interruptions all over the place. So it's hard for them to deal with all. And I think having just 2 Dracotail traps is not enough back row for you to like deal with like a Raigeki, for instance, right? And counting on you drawing into Fallen Virtuous or way to access it is not necessarily reliable. So I think siding in the horn is very good going first. I also played Call by the Grave. Nothing too much needs to be said there. It's just good into hand traps and 5 mana. And then lastly, I played 2 Fenrirs. I like this card. Good into Di-Fi, good into Retaliating Sea. Really good in those post-side game 3s where everyone has a bunch of non-engine and like the engines get shut down really easily. So having just 2400 who has this kind of battle removal as well as a little bit of self-protection is really good. So yeah, I think Fenrir is really good inside. Definitely not a main deck card. And yeah, so that's a deck profile. Thanks to everyone who supported. Really love the community support. Shout out Vikash, shout out Sean, shout out the OGs, Tej and Rajiv. And yeah, hopefully I could continue to win.